there is a smell in an infected ear that I never forgot after the first time I encountered it. Warm, yeasty, a little sour. The kind of smell that tells you the body has been fighting something for a long time and losing. I walked into 38 years of exam rooms with that smell, and I can tell you with certainty the dog was almost never the problem. The food was the problem. The eardrops were a bandage on a wound that something else was causing. And the $400 you paid for that visit, the culture swab, the prescription drops, the recheck fee, the office visit, that money went into a system designed to keep your dog coming back, not to fix the root of it. What I am going to tell you today took me a long time to say out loud because for most of my career I prescribed the same drops every other vet prescribed. I handed out the same little brown bottles, wrote the same instructions, sent people home with the same hopeful look, and I watched the same dogs come back 8 weeks later with the same infected ears, the same hot spots, the same weeping skin, over and over, um, until I started asking a different question. Not how do I treat this infection, but why does this dog keep getting infected in the first place? The answer was sitting in my kitchen cabinet the whole time, and it costs about $2 at any grocery store in the country. Now, before we get into exactly what it is and exactly how to use it, I need you to understand something about how infection works in dogs, because if you skip that part, you will use this wrong and wonder why it did not work. There is a sequence here, and the sequence matters more than the remedy. A healthy dog's skin and ears maintain a natural pH, a chemical balance that makes it very difficult for bacteria and yeast to take hold. Yeast in particular, and most of the bacteria behind your dog's recurring ear infections and skin infections thrive in an alkaline or neutral environment. The moment that balance tips because of antibiotics, because of starchy commercial kibble, because of chronic inflammation, the bad organisms move in fast. They set up house, they reproduce, the ear gets red, the skin gets hot, your dog starts shaking his head, scratching, scooting, chewing at his paws. You take him in, the vet swabs the ear, prescribes Otomax or Claro or some other branded antibiotic antifungal combination. You pay the $400. The infection clears, the underlying pH imbalance is still there. 6 weeks later, it comes back. That cycle has a name in the industry. It is called a recurring client. And a recurring client is worth more to a corporate veterinary chain than a healthy dog. I want to be clear about something. I am not talking about every veterinarian in America. There are good people in this profession who genuinely care. But when a private equity firm buys 1,200 clinics and installs a revenue per visit target, the incentive structure changes. I watched it happen in my county. A clinic I used to refer to, family owned for 40 years, sold to a national chain. Within a year, the wellness visit prices doubled, the upselling started, dental cleanings pushed at every appointment, prescription diets sold at the front desk for $80 a bag. The medicine did not get more expensive. The margin got bigger. There is a difference. The AVMA itself has published data showing that veterinary costs increased by over 60% in the decade between 2012 and 2022. The dogs did not get sicker that fast. The private equity consolidation happened that fast. So here is what I want you to know. The $2 powder is raw apple cider vinegar in diluted form, specifically a 1-to-1 solution of raw apple cider vinegar and distilled water. That is 50% vinegar, 50% water. And when I say raw, I mean with the mother, the cloudy, unfiltered kind, with the sediment at the bottom. The cheap, clear stuff on the grocery store shelf is not the same and will not do the same thing. You want Bragg's or any raw, unfiltered brand, that bottle costs between $2 and $3. Now here is the science, because I want you to understand why this works, and not just take my word for it. Raw apple cider vinegar has a pH of around 3 to 3.5. Bacteria like Pseudomonas and Staphylococcus, the two most common organisms behind canine ear infections, struggle to survive below a pH of 5. Malassezia, the yeast responsible for that sour corn chip smell in your dog's ears, is even more sensitive. You drop the pH in that ear canal, and you create an environment where those organisms cannot reproduce. It is not magic. It is basic microbiology. A Cornell veterinary study on topical acidic solutions in canine otitis found exactly this mechanism. The principle is the same one behind why your grandmother put vinegar on a wound. It worked then, it works now. The industry just found a way to charge $400 for a version of it. The application is specific, and I need you to follow this exactly. Take a clean cotton ball, not a cotton swab, a cotton ball. Soak it in your 50-50 solution. Wring it out so it is damp, not dripping. Tilt your dog's head gently. Wipe the visible part of the ear canal, what you can see from the outside, in one slow motion, top to bottom, turning the cotton ball as you go so you are always using a clean surface. Never push anything down into the ear canal. You are not trying to reach the deep canal. You are changing the environment at the entry point and the outer canal wall, which is where the colonization begins. Do this once a day for 5 consecutive days, then every other day for 2 more weeks. If you see redness increasing, or your dog pulls away sharply in pain, or there is discharge coming up from deep in the canal stop, and call your vet, those are signs of a deeper infection that has reached the middle ear and that does need prescription treatment. The vinegar protocol is for early and recurring surface infections, not for a perforated eardrum or a severe bacterial invasion. You have to know the difference. For hot spots and skin infections, the protocol is slightly different. Mix the same 50-50 solution in a small spray bottle. After you have gently trimmed the hair around the hot spot, this is important. Air circulation is part of how a hot spot heals. Spray the solution directly on the area. Let it air dry. Do not cover it. Do not let your dog lick it immediately after application. The bitter taste usually handles that on its own. Do this twice a day. Most minor hotspots begin showing visible improvement within 48 to 72 hours. The redness reduces, the weeping stops, the edges start to dry. I had a Cocker Spaniel come through my clinic in the late 90s, a boy named Biscuit, 7 years old. His owner had been in to see me 4 times that year for ear infections. 4 times. The total invoice was somewhere north of $1,400. Biscuit was on his second round of Otomax and his first round of oral antibiotics, and he still smelled like a wet sock that had been left in a locker since 1987. The owner was a retired school teacher from outside Decatur. She had a fixed income, and she was embarrassed by the smell, and she loved that dog more than most people love their children. I told her to stop the antibiotics. We finished that course properly, and then I told her what I have just told you. I told her to look at the ingredient list on the kibble she was buying, and I told her I was sorry I had not said it the first time she came in. She switched Biscuit to a lower starch diet and started the vinegar protocol. He came back 3 months later for his annual. No ear infection, the smell was gone. She cried a little in the exam room. I pretended not to notice, which is something you learn to do after enough years. That is where the real problem lives, in the food. And if you have been dealing with recurring infections in your dog, I need you to hear this next part carefully because it is the part most veterinarians will never say to you. The kibble you are probably feeding your dog, even the premium priced ones, even the ones with the words natural and holistic on the bag, is almost certainly loaded with corn, wheat, white potato, or some combination of high glycemic starch. These starches ferment in the gut. They feed yeast systemically. The yeast overgrowth that shows up in your dog's ears, on his paws, on his belly, in the folds of his skin, that is not coming from outside. It is coming from inside. The kibble is feeding the infection. And the prescription food your vet is selling you at the front desk for $85 a bag, the Hills Z, D, or the Royal Canin hydrolyzed protein, those are often still starch heavy. Hills is owned by Colgate Palmolive. Royal Canin is owned by Mars, the candy company. These are not nutritional research institutions. They are consumer packaged goods companies with veterinary distribution licenses. The FDA has issued multiple warnings about certain grain-free kibbles and their link to dilated cardiomyopathy. The Clean Label Project tested 241 pet foods and found that 26% contained detectable heavy metals and 48% showed pesticide residues above a baseline threshold. These are not my numbers. These are independent laboratory numbers. You can look up the Clean Label Project report yourself. If you have ever looked at your dog's paws, the pink skin between the toes, rusty brown staining in the fur, and wondered what causes that, now you know. That is yeast. That is internal. The vinegar can help manage it topically, but the food is the engine running it. What I recommend, and what I have recommended to hundreds of clients who came to me exhausted by recurring infections, is a transition to a whole food diet. Cooked chicken or turkey, cooked or raw vegetables, without starch green beans, zucchini, leafy greens, no potatoes, no corn, no peas, as a primary ingredient and a simple protein base. If you cannot do full home cooked, look for a kibble with a single named protein source as the first ingredient and no corn, wheat, soy, or white potato in the first 5. It is a smaller list than you think. Most of what is on the shelf does not qualify. I've seen dogs with 3 years of chronic ear infections clear up within 60 days of a food transition, not because I gave them some kind of expensive prescription, because the food stopped feeding the problem. If your dog has been on antibiotics recently, there is one more step. Antibiotics kill indiscriminately. They take the good bacteria along with the bad. After any antibiotic course, your dog's gut microbiome is compromised, and that sets the stage for the next yeast overgrowth. A simple probiotic, human grade Lactobacillus acidophilus, a capsule broken open into the food once a day for 30 days helps restore that balance. A bottle of 50 capsules from any pharmacy costs about $6 or $7. The prescription veterinary probiotic at the clinic desk costs $40 and contains the same strains. I have read the labels side by side. You can too. There is something I want to say to anyone watching who has lost a dog to something that seemed to come out of nowhere, a cancer diagnosis, organ failure, a rapid decline in a dog that seemed healthy, and you are sitting here watching this video wondering if the food had something to do with it. I cannot answer that for you. But I will tell you that after 38 years, I believe, with everything I have, that chronic low-grade inflammation fed by poor nutrition and treated with repeated antibiotic cycles, is at the root of more early deaths in dogs than the industry will ever acknowledge. The AVMA reports that roughly 1 in 4 dogs in the United States develops cancer. 1 in 4. That number was closer to 1 in 10 when I started practicing. Something changed. The food changed, the chemical load changed, the vaccination schedules changed, and none of the companies profiting from the current system have any incentive to investigate the connection. That is not something your vet is likely to say to you. Not because they are a bad person, most of them went into this work for the right reasons. But when the clinic is owned by a fund and the fund has revenue targets and the prescription diet margins are where the money is, the conversation gets shaped by what is profitable, not what is true. You deserve the truth. Your dog deserves it more. So let me put this together cleanly before you go. For early stage ear infections and recurring surface infections, raw apple cider vinegar, 50-50 with distilled water, cotton ball once a day, 5 days, then every other day for 2 weeks. Watch for worsening signs and involve your vet if they appear. For hot spots, same solution in a spray bottle. Trim the area first, twice daily, let it air dry. For the underlying cause, look at the starch content of the food. Transition to lower glycemic ingredients, add a probiotic after any antibiotic course. These 3 things together address the cycle, not just the symptom. The $2 bottle works. I have watched it work for decades. The reason it costs $2 is that nobody can patent apple cider vinegar. If they could, it would cost $90 and come with a patient assistance program and a rebate card. If what I have told you today changed how you think about the next vet visit or the bag of food sitting next to your dog's bowl right now, then you already understand why this channel exists. I spent 38 years putting my hands on dogs and cats, and I have got more to tell you than I could say in a lifetime of office visits. If your dog or your cat means as much to you as mine did to me, stay with me. I put out something new every single day. 38 years of things the industry does not want you to hear, and I am just getting started.